Untitled Takeoff, which is not a new thing. It's been around about 30 years. I've been around more than that, but I come from On-Center Software, which is now a part of Construct Connect, which is a culmination of about 9 different companies. You come hear about it at our booth out there. I'm the director of training and pre-sales. So basically, the folks on my team are all product specialists, and they help to train estimators, and they help to help estimators to kind of kick the tires when they're trying to figure out if they want to invest in a particular solution or not. Couple things about me, little fun facts about me. I'm not from construction originally, but I've been in this profession for about 9 years, and I have over those 9 years ended up training thousands of estimators. It's my passion. I love construction, though I've never had an opportunity to actually be on a building crew. I tried to bribe my way onto a couple of different sites to learn some stuff, was unsuccessful, but my passion led me to ASPE, and this fall I actually joined their education committee. So much do I care about training estimators and raising them up so that they can be the best that they can be. Other fun facts, I have a collection of crazy plans. We've talked to so many different people across the world. I actually have the foundation plans for Alcatraz. It's pretty cool, little part of my collection. I've begged but not gotten the plans for Harry Potter's Wizarding World. So I have the person who built that. And trained one of the guys who worked on the Freedom Tower in New York. There's just some really cool things that I've had an opportunity and honor to be a part of, quite frankly. And the last little couple last little fun facts. Absolutely love Legos. One of my favorite things in the whole world. It's what I can build, right? And I'm the mother of 2 boys at home, 9 and 11-year-old fellas, and a great husband who supports me, traveling all over the place, and 2 cats and 2 guinea pigs. That's me. So thank you all for being here today. I'm going to tell you a little story. About 6 years ago, On-Center hired this phenomenally talented estimator. He had been estimating for about 15 years, local in the Houston area, and we hired him to support the sales team with estimating knowledge. So we'd have this expert on call that they could refer back to. And they came to me and they asked me to help train him on our products. The thing is, for like half of his 15-year career, he had been doing estimates on paper, and then he had switched over to I-square-foot and to on-screen takeoff. He was so excited to come in because he knew on-screen takeoff backwards and forwards. And I thought, this would be a breeze, training this guy because he's already seen all this stuff. And it was, except the really extraordinary thing is I'd whip out a few tools he had never seen before. And he had been using it over 5 years. And I thought, oh my gosh, like how could you not have known this was here? But the crazy thing was he got so excited about some of these extra tools that were in there he didn't know about. I literally thought he was going to resign and go back and become an estimator because he said, if I had known this, 2 weeks ago, my gosh, it would have made my job so much easier. Fast forward to about 3 years ago, I hired a new gal on my team, and she came from Turner, 5 years using on-screen takeoff. Same story. I started training her on stuff. She was so good at what she did, she's excellent still today. She was a trainer for her team on Turner, on-screen takeoff. But again, there were tools that I trained her on, thinking this will be a breeze, she already knows all this stuff, and there'd be tools she'd never heard of. And she was just like, how did I not know that this stuff was in this program? So it's those experiences that led me to this presentation. So when Eric Soriano asked Mark Fly and I, hey, we want you guys to come and speak. What would you like to share about? This is my passion. Because I know, just like anybody, when you start a new software program, we all use about 30% of it. Let's talk about Excel for a minute, There's so much power in the tools we invest in that sometimes we just don't even know that stuff is there. So what I want to do today, get my little clicker over here, my goals for today, number 1 is to light a fire under you. That you need to courageously adopt anything that you invest in. And I'm not just talking about Takeoff, although that's my area of expertise. And I'm not just talking about my products, though that's what I know the most about. I'm just saying if you invest in a Takeoff or an estimating solution, dive in 100%. It will pay off, I promise. And then I'm going to show you how to do it, because I know as someone who has been training estimators for a long time, that's the hardest thing to do, is to find time to learn this stuff, because it's overwhelming when you're faced with it for the first time. And I know that super super well because I came from no construction background and had to learn it from nothing. So I know how overwhelming it could be from that point of view as well. I get it. So that's what we're going to do today. Everybody on board? Thumbs up. All right, so this is where we're headed, and we're going to do this together. These are my sort of landing pages that we're going to go to here. Platinum Takeoff will be our first stop. Platinum, does anybody know, is the wedding gift of people who've been married 70 years. Anybody in here been married several decades? I've only been married 1 decade so far. Anyway, I Googled that. Platinum is 70. And in our new business with 9 different companies, we have well over 70 years of experience pooling into products. And what that means is we go far beyond, let's just get your measurements off the page. We innovate, we listen to clients, we've been doing it for decades, for over 70 years, and we think about things outside the box that technology allows us to do, and you should know what those things are. The end game, what do you want in your hands at the end of your takeoff or estimate? You should be looking at every option that you have in the tools that you use. The Autobahn, anybody actually ever driven on the Autobahn? No? I haven't either. You have, really?
The Audubon, the Speedway?
I thought I knew most of your stories.
The freeway?
In Germany, yes. Okay then, we'll talk later. So the Autobahn, if you haven't heard of it, is a state-run highway in Germany. It has no posted speed limits. So you just trek it, you know? And my subject here is there is no speed limit on the information highway. So we're going to talk about communication and communication tools within a takeoff solution. And then we'll wrap up with the 5-minute power user. This is my plan to help you adopt everything in the program so that you don't necessarily end up going 5 years, 10 years using a takeoff program and find out you used about this much of it. And you could have saved hundreds of hours, thousands of hours, maybe thousands of dollars if you knew that was there. That's my goal. Okay? Platinum Takeoff, I said this is what you get from over 70 years of innovation and experience. Little story about this, but before I tell you that little story, you tell me, what is the process for learning a new digital tool in your office right now? Any digital tool. You adopt something new, you get new email, servers, Lord help us, that happened to us this year. We went from Gmail to Outlook. I'm still mourning the loss of Gmail. I'm getting used to it, but what's your process in your office? Do you have a process? No, shaking your head.
Sink or swim.
Sink or swim. Are you left to your own devices to do it? Like, here it is, good luck to you, God bless. Is that how it works? Yes? Oh, a lot of nodding heads. So does anybody in the room have a team that kind of comes together and has meetings at least to talk about? Yes, you do? What does that look like?
Just, meeting of the minds, going over all the basics.
Yeah.
Just trying to get it all figured out together.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome. A lot of people that I talk to are on the 2 different ends of the spectrum. That you've got companies who actually hire people to learn that program and be the resident trainer, and you've got companies who said, here it is, figure it out. We invested a lot of money in it, and there you go. I've actually had guys in our class that had said, when we had them introduce themselves, I'm here because my boss said he'd fire me if I didn't come. So that's a great starting point. All right. So one of the things that we do is we tell people when they're considering the software is, look, you just take your existing takeoff and estimating process and you plunk it into a digital space. That's what our tool does. And what we mean by that is it's customizable, and you can kind of feel comfortable in that space. But what that saying does in some ways is gives you a false sense of security that you know everything that's in there. Because you already know your process and you don't think outside of your process. Because why would you? It's been working for you for a long, long time. And you will get benefits from just doing your existing process in a digital space. But there's so much more beyond that. So I knew a guy who called into our tech department one day. He ended up on my phone, and he was asking me, where do I type in my measurements for my takeoff? And this gentleman had taken on-screen takeoff and had gone to our Annotation Tools, picked highlighter, highlighted the line that he had just measured with the dimension tool, and he wanted to know where to type that measurement in, because that matched his existing process manually. Does that make sense? Like, that's what he did. He would measure it with a tape measure, you know, color pencil, write it down. And he tried to mimic that in on-screen takeoff. And it pained me to have to tell him, you actually create this thing. It's called a condition. You name it, you give it dimensions. Like it's a 9-foot-high wall. You draw the line with that, not the highlighter tool, and it gives you the measurement. And it's listed, and you have it right there. It about blew his mind, poor thing. I mean, he invested in this program, but he hadn't taken his training, and so on and so forth. But it's totally natural to look for what you know. You go in with these expectations of, this is my experience, this is my process, but it kind of perhaps hides an expectation for something more. Does that make sense? There's more out there than what you know. We've developed a variety of different tools. I'm going to show you some here in just a second that have nothing to do with anything you could possibly ever do on paper. It's just we know that technology is built up in this way, so we're going to grab onto that, and we're going to take advantage of that, and we're going to see how fast we can make you go and how accurate we can make it be. And innovation is never ending. Couple things about that. So when we have people who are using the program who don't know that there's more out there, we see a tangled mess. I will give you one more example. A guy called into our training help desk at one point, and he had made, we call them conditions, just the items that you're going to take off. He had made, let's say, a wall type A for floor 1, and another wall type A for floor 2, and another wall type A for floor 3, and so on and so forth. Imagine if you had 50 items you were trying to take off on every single floor. That is a lot of items if you do it that way. That would get overwhelming in a heartbeat. He didn't realize we have a tool that lets you just make a 50 list and then organize them by floor later. So much faster. But he was, again, intuiting what his process had been. He just pulled it right into the digital space. The innovation is never ending, because here's the thing, like, if you're not expecting that to be there, how would you even conceive that there's a thing like that, right? That's a pretty understandable thing. If it's not intuitive and you can't see something inviting you to click on it in such a way that you're like, oh, I bet I could do this organization by floor if I click on this. There's not something sort of drawing you into that. So when I say innovation is never ending, I mean that companies, like our development team, like anybody's development team, in addition to building new tools, are also trying to make every tool they make intuitive in the program, so it draws you in, so that it is easy to use without you having to go look something up, read the user guide, watch a video, so that it's just right there so that you will use it more. And it's a constant challenge. They're working on it all the time. So what I'm going to show you here in just a second are just a little sampling of things that are outside the box of regular takeoff. Multiple quantity results, what we call multi-condition takeoff, something called typical groups, and something called zones. Let me show you what each one of those is. Let's see if I can do this here. Okay, actually, let's bring that up. Okay, this is our newest product. I'm going to scoot out over here. I'm sorry, I'm going to turn my back to you for just a second. This is our newest product. This is Construct, Connect, Takeoff. And this is not going to work over here, so let me just do the best I can from over here. All right, what I wanted to show you here when I say multiple quantity results is when you measure anything in a manual space and you get, let's say you're measuring a wall, you get length, right? You measure rebar, you pick up something. But look at this. I've got quantity 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have unlimited amounts of quantities I can pick up from one item that I've identified based on the content that I put in there. So I'm going to just highlight one here, rebar, which popped up on this screen. Okay. So, I mean, you can identify weight if that's relevant, dimensions, all that good stuff. And then, there we go. You can identify a variety of different results. So on every time I take off rebar, which I take it off with an area grid, like I just mark out a whole area and it's got a grid pre-built in there, I'm picking up the surface area, I'm picking up the grid length, so all the grid pieces, total length, I'm picking up the perimeter, and I'm picking up field intersection count, so for ties and what have you. Four measurements in one takeoff. That's the kind of stuff that's like outside of the box, that's more than just, let me just have a digital color take this off and give me a measurement. Now you're measuring 4 different things. And you can see we've got a bunch more here. And this little magic add button is a custom formula builder. So you want to build something in with some waste factor, you want to build in some, anything really. I was going to say production. You can build in anything else you want to add to that, and now you have all of those measurements all at once. So kind of unlimited possibilities there. Close that out. That's multiple quantity results, but we also have something called multiple or multi-condition takeoff. Okay, so multi-condition takeoff, I'm trying to fix up here, so I'm not too far away. That works? Hey, it works. So multi-condition takeoff is kind of a step in the same direction as the multi-quantity results. It basically means anytime you're taking off something that's in a similar space, like, let's go to we'll grab curb and gutter. I'll hold my control key down and grab concrete paving. Or I can grab curb and gutter and sidewalks. But the point is that then you can go into your takeoff space, and I'm just going to do it randomly up here on the side. And as I take off areas like this, it takes off both of those conditions at the same exact time, both of those elements. So there's my curb and gutter in green, and the blue is my sidewalks. I just grabbed 2 items there to take off, but you can grab any number of items. So if I'm doing a slab, concrete slab, I can grab the slab, the continuous footing, the rebar, and take it all off at the same time. So I'm only tracing that spot one time. Because why should you trace it multiple times? It's the same exact shape. That doesn't make sense to have to do that to yourself. And in grabbing all 3 of those with unlimited conditions or unlimited results, imagine how many results you can get, like in just a heartbeat, frankly. I've taken off a commercial roof that had 11 items in it, and all of those 11 items had multiple results. So fast. It just goes so fast. That's not something that you necessarily see when you open the program and you think, how do I do my takeoff? You're not necessarily looking for something like that, which is why I would encourage you, like the fire, dig deeper into the programs that you have, because we're innovating stuff like this all the time. So try to teach yourself, the program, or try to invest in the training so you can find those elements as well. Let's see, typical roofs I was going to show you next. So I'm going to open up my trusty on-screen takeoff for this. Are there any on-screen takeoff users in here? A couple of you? Okay, great. All right, does anybody in here work on multifamily residences, dormitories, hospitals, anything with repeating spaces? A couple of y'all. This is a tool you're going to want to pay close attention to, and this is one of the main tools that neither one of the people we hired from estimating out in the real world knew about, even though they've been using the program for 5 years. This is a tool that allows you to find a space like this that has repeating rooms, repeating apartments, and then you can go into the detail plan and you do the whole takeoff. Everything that you need inside that unit, you do it, you capture it. We put that little red frame around it. I'm not going to walk through how we do that. It's super easy though. But we call it Unit A. So while I make an item that's a wall, and I make an item that's a ceiling, and I make an item that's a door, this is an item called Unit A, and it has everything you need in it for that one unit. Does that make sense? So then when you go back to the floor plan, right here, and then here's my Unit A over here on the left, Unit B, Unit C, Unit D, Unit E. All I have to do is go into these spaces and click. And I just took off an entire unit. Done. One click. Just one click.
If you do that and you miss something in there, can you go back to Unit A, the blow up of Unit A, add it, and it'll add it to all those spaces?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Stole my thunder, but yes. No, that's awesome because a lot of times, this is not just one floor. It's multiple drawings that you have to work with that have that same Unit A on them, maybe with some exceptions. But yeah, if you took off 40 Unit A's across multiple drawings and you missed something, you would go back to that template, change it in that template, and it's changed across your entire project.
Will it let you change out, like say they got tubs in them and they want to put showers instead?
That's right.
You can go in there later and pull out the tub.
That's right.
And you just do it in that one spot.
That's exactly right. And that is such a good question because that naturally when I show this to people for the first time, a lot of the times the response is, yeah, but I have copy paste, I can do that all day long. But without what we're talking about right now, you're going to be pasting a lot of changes. If you've taken it off 40 times, you got to paste the change 40 times. And it won't be exactly the same every time you paste it because human error, But with typical groups, you manage everything from that template, and it just master changes the whole thing. Would that be helpful to those of you who just saw that? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that, like, if you don't dig in and you don't make time to kind of learn this as best you can, you miss out on that. And I tell this story all the time, but I worked with a guy who was in the UK. His primary job was working on dormitories. That was all they did, just dormitories for universities. Taught him this tool. He called me back a week later just to say thank you because the job he finished used to take him 3 weeks and he finished it in a matter of days. Can you imagine what a difference that would make in your production and your profitability in a year's time? I mean, it's just crazy. Now, in addition to this, pull it back for just a second. Sometimes we see these kinds of plans, right, where they just give you one plan and it's repetitive. So this is going to stand for 21 different floors. We can handle that too. You do your typical groups, like we just talked about, and then you pop up to where you manage your drawings, and see where it says repeats? I can go to that one drawing and just tell the program, yeah, so that one repeats 21 times. And it gives me 21 virtual pages. And then I can pop into each page, and this is getting into a tool I'm not going to show you in detail today, but I've named all the floors, so I can give them proper names in case there's something unique on those floors I need to be able to attribute to a particular floor. And what happens is, when I go look at my final results, let me go to my area and flat. It's already got all 21 floors, 8 through 29 listed for me with all of the results there. So we just took off 21 floors of one unit. That's pretty cool, right? Is that worth 5 minutes a day? I'd say so. I'd say so. All right, last one I want to show you just on this topic here is a tool called Zones. I love this tool so much. It pains me that it is so invisible, seemingly to a lot of users. It's just, it doesn't really stick out when you open up a new drawing here. Zones is located right here. See that tiny little tab? It does not scream, I will save your life and make you lots of money. That's the kind of thing that developers look at and they try to engage, like, how do I get you to click over there and figure out why you would want to click over there? Anybody ever do a complete takeoff and somebody comes back later and says, hey, what if we switched out this one wing? How much would that cost? Or how long is the labor gonna take on this floor or in this room? Does anybody ever have that, like after the fact? Yes? What is your process now to figure that out? Or how long does that take when you do it?
It's in our estimate already.
It's in your estimate already? You point back to it?
We gotta go, as we do our takeoffs, you do them by area or zone
Yeah.
or section or sequence or
Yeah.
however, so you're already spending that time on every job up front.
Good.
Just so on the few jobs they come back to, you're able to capture that.
Good. You can keep doing that in this space because I would encourage setting up areas right away when you're doing a takeoff, but the zones comes in and it's a scrappy little tool. So what I'm gonna do is show you on-screen takeoff and QuickBid. That's our estimating program because QuickBid has all these reports. So I'm gonna go right to the end after I take this zone. So I'm gonna click here. I'm gonna add a new zone. And we're just gonna call this phase 1. And we're gonna make it more visible so everybody can see it. All right, so that's my phase. Somebody wants to know how much this wing of the building is gonna be. Or let's say you were taking off a slab and you were trying to create a pour schedule and you want to slice it up for different days. That's my zone. No results there, right? I don't see any results. Maybe a little bit less exciting. Well, number 1, you can pop back to where we started and you can group by zone. That's everything in phase 1, right there. Just like that. But if you want something more robust, because we talked about labor and we talked about material, you pop into QuickBid and you would go to reports. Would pop up on my screen. And go right to reports. And I can say, I just want to see phase 1 information. And so what I'm going to get is a report with just that information. So that took us all of less than a minute to pull information that gives me quantity, unit price, labor unit price. I could go on to, there's my full report. So now I also have crew days, crew size, pieces per day, quantity, application, all of that, for everything that I just sort of circled. So you can have someone live on the phone and do that so fast and have those quantities just right away. That's not something that necessarily translates from manual takeoff to digital because you don't necessarily intuit that's going to be there. And that poor little zones tab just doesn't scream out at you. So whenever I'm at trade shows or what have you, and I have people come up to say, hey, I use on-screen, I use QuickBid, thank you so much, we love it. I ask them, are you using zones? And half the time they say no. And then I show it to them, they're like, oh my gosh, how long has that been in there? And it's preceded me, so it's been over a decade. But sadly, again, like from a developer standpoint, it's not real obvious. So it's worth it to dig in and find that stuff in there so that you can really benefit. Any questions about that?
Is your database on your computer or you working remotely?
It depends on the program. The database is typically for on-center products on the computer or on a local server, depending on what you're using. And then the new Construct Connect tools are in the cloud. Does that make sense? Where do you save yours now? Sorry?
Where's
On the cloud? Okay, so we went through those. The end game, what do you want in your hands at the conclusion of your takeoff or estimate? Name 3 things that your takeoff results must include right now. Anybody, just shout them out. What'd you say?
Tonnage.
Tonnage,
Area.
area, is that what you said? Yep. Anybody else? Pieces, okay. All right. So, do you know, if you're using a takeoff and estimating program, do you know everything in that program that can help you deliver those results? Do you know about the customization of results? Organization of results? What are your options there? Do you have master libraries? Do you know everything there is to know about utilizing those master libraries? What about exporting? What can you export to? Integrations. We have accounting integrations with some of our products that you can pull it out and put it in any number of different things. I'm just encouraging you to explore that stuff. So I'm going to show you 3 examples. Here's another little sampling of stuff that our program can do that, again, is not necessarily super obvious and can, I think, be passed over in some ways. Customization, pricing libraries, and a new tool called Lively. Okay, so we're back in Construct Connect Takeoff, our newest tool. And one of the things is, so this is being built by developers, let's see my mouse, there it is, who work with PlanSwift and OnCenter and QuoteSoft. They're all developing now together, which is really, really exciting. And so we're building out stuff based off of our decades of experience and knowledge, and people are kind of giving their 2 cents. So one of the things that we heard a lot about from the screen I just showed you, an on-screen takeoff, where I just grouped by zone just real quick, that's nice and all, but we always have people emailing us like, well, hey, I want my width in there. I want weight. I want this in a different order. Can you do it this way? And we were limited in how that organization worked. So when we built this tool, we built a summary. And the summary comes with a pivot table. Has anybody ever used pivot tables in Excel? Yes, a few of you. So basically what this is, down here at the bottom right, we have a report filter, columns, rows. And you have categories up here at the top that you can play around with. And you can organize this any way you want, and then export it exactly how you set it up. So for example, this is a bid, a sample bid that we use. It's got a sampling of a lot of different trades, but let's say all I want to see is concrete related stuff. So I'm going to take the takeoff item group, this little custom field I made, put it in the filter. Here's my filter, and I've got every group possible, but I'm just going to choose casket, place, concrete. Here's the caissons, site concrete, and I'm going to leave it at that. Click OK, and it adjusts my list to only show me that. Now it's filtered to that, but I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to take it one step further and pull this down into groups so they're going to be labeled. Here's casting place together, here's the caissons together. Just like high customization. So worth your time to kind of dig into that and see what you can do. Now on top of that, you can barely see it on the screen up here, but there's 3 little dots on the left, kind of universally known as sort of more. It's another menu. Look at all the different things that you can add in here. You said weight per linear, weight per area, weight per volume, weight per count, and we have tonnage in there. So you can build that in, add it as another column, and now you have your own customized result list. And I just, again, years of doing this, I see people sort of pass over that because they've gotten into digital takeoff, they get their measurements, they get their results, and they move them on. Or they're trying to pour them into an Excel spreadsheet and do this in Excel instead, when this is here ready to go. So you should know that there's a lot more stuff in here.
So could you take this like, we're doing structural steel, could you do like, you put in like a W 18 by 35 or something,
Mm-hmm.
you take that material, you put that in there, and then it would read
Yes.
that, so the W is obviously the size, and then the last number is the weight. Would it read that automatically?
No, it won't do that because the
So you
field
gotta
that
put that in your system.
you got to put the weight in the system. Like you
Yeah.
identify what the weight per foot or weight per, whatever is, and you decide if you want to see it in pounds or tons. You kind of set
Is there an
that up.
add-on where you guys have like those steel shapes where you can just go in there and select the shape and it'll do all that?
That would be amazing. And I would encourage you, towards the end of my presentation, to take heed to my encouragement to talk to the development teams. Because that's how we build out that stuff. And I mean, that's why that's there in the first place. Because because we had on-center clients forever saying, I gotta put weight in here, structural steel, man. Like, this is not helpful to just have linear, because I'm having to do those other calculation outside of your program, and I'd just rather not. Yeah, so that's why that's in there in the first
But
place.
regardless, even in here, you could put in your weight of material, and as you took them off, it would
That's right.
calculate the tonnage.
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah. So customization there, and then the last one, so that's the summary, there's no pricing on there, you can see. But if I pop over to the worksheet tab, this is where we add in some pricing. And all these items that I'm showing here, they can all be saved to a library. And then they can come made with pricing. So if you want to get a quick estimate, just a little ballpark figure with your historic unit costs in there, you use those items from your library, boom, you plug it in. I just did my takeoff and I have $1.5 million to this deal. And that's what I'm working with. Okay? That's obviously kind of an early stage bid. It's unit cost only. We're not getting real detailed. Maybe that's all you need. I don't know. I don't know all your businesses, but LiveLink, the other tool I'm going to talk to you about, is what you would do to take it to the next step. So in the Construct Connect platform right now, we don't have a detailed estimating solution. We stop right here. This is as far as it goes. But what we want you to do, and this is where PlanSwift played a big role, they developed a tool for a LiveLink with Excel, and then they built it right into this last fall, which is, it's phenomenal. So, let me open up Excel. Over on this screen. Okay, when you download Construct Connect Takeoff on your computer, it comes with a link or a connection to Construct Connect in Excel. So I just click on that to kind of engage it, click Connect. And what it's going to do is give me a list of all my projects and bids from my Construct Connect Takeoff list. So I'm going to put those in order by name so I can find my projects. I'm going to use this one that we were playing around with. And connect. So what this has done on this little side over here is it's giving me a list of all the takeoff items I came up with. Remember we had curb and gutter in there? And I can, at this point, even if I never chose any of those takeoff results in the program, I can grab those and I can put them in. Now, I don't have a spreadsheet up, but I just want to show you how simple this is. You take your spreadsheet that you have built with your blood, sweat, and tears as tried and true, been using it for years, right? You know where that quantity result is supposed to go. So let's say it's just length, and length goes in this little cell. I double click, whoops, I double click here. Yeah, I don't have length, let's choose something else. There, and it populates. Now what's going to happen, like that plugged my results in for now, right? But you can save this Excel sheet, which would have started with a template, right? You just have a template you use, rename it for the job, you save it, you go do the rest of your takeoff, you come back a week later, open this up, and it has all the updated measurements. That's the live part of the link. So you don't have to keep coming back and hit refresh or anything like that, but you are utilizing your Excel spreadsheet that has worked for you successfully for quite some time. So these are extra tools, again, just beyond moving from paper to a digital space that you really just, you don't want to miss out on. You're fantastic. All right, so back here, no speed limit on the information highway. Name two of the biggest communication hurdles that you have today, that you face today. Anybody? Yeah. Volume of emails. Oh, I was going to say, Mark, he's back there. He was talking about that last night at one of our presentations. He was saying that construction has the biggest, I don't want to call it abuse, but the biggest sort of spam issues in any industry in the world because there's so many emails going back and forth for everyone. It's hard to keep up with them in that form. Anybody else?
I think it's live communication. I mean, everybody is so used face to face.
Yeah, yeah, that's big too. Not wanting to be face to face or talk on the phone. Anybody else? What about drawings? Keeping up with addendums, yeah, absolutely. Because if you have people in different locations, different states even, how do you make sure that you caught the email with the addendums and that you got it into the right person's hands in time before either they're taking something off wrong, or God forbid they actually started building something wrong and now you got to scrap it and start over and the expense just got twice as big. You know, those kinds of things. So who needs to know, and this is a rhetorical question, but just something to think about when you're faced with a new digital solution. Think through, who needs to know the information coming out of my Takeoff? Who needs to know that, and how can I get that to them? And ask yourself again, are you aware of every option that you have to maximize those efforts? Do you know every single one in the program? Because you ought to. So I'm going to show you 4 more little samples here. I'm trying to be speedy about it. Sorry, this is hard to navigate, going back and forth here. So in construction at Takeoff, and a lot of what I'm showing you here also have the same capabilities are in on-screen and in PlanSwift also. We all build sort of similar things. But look down here. All these are annotation tools. So at any given time, I'm going to zoom back out a little bit. Full screen. So I've got dimension tools. I've got text I can add in there, certainly. I can add in my own clouds. Oops, grab that. Set the thickness, set the color, there we go. I can add in my own cloud, type in a message. I can add in documentation stamping. Is something accepted, approved, rejected, need some information, like an RFI right there. You can add in, arrows, what have you. This little guy down here that looks like a paperclip is an attachment. How helpful would it be to actually attach a photo of what something is supposed to look like, or what something actually looks like right this moment? We have a punch list item in here too, so you can kind of follow up on projects and you see it in this space. Now, taking this one step further, this platform is in the cloud. This would be true for a lot of your cloud solutions out there, not just ours, but look for the opportunity to have a collaborative space. There are a few out there that do this. In this program, when you have an organization, an org, we call it for short, when I do this Takeoff, everybody on my team can see this program, can see this file, can see this project, and they can see my notes, and they can see if I sent them a note. And so, like in on-screen Takeoff, you can share a database and everybody can see the files. They can't work in them at the same time. And this one, you can have multiple estimators working in them at the same exact time, the same bit at the same time. Maximize your efforts. But also, going back to the drawings issue, in on-screen, we have Project Express. You kind of send out big projects to other people to share. But if you're already in the org, you just open it. It's right there. There's no sending. There's no emailing. There's no nothing. It's there. You can see it. Knock yourself out. It's a pretty sweet tool there. If you had also need of sending an email, we have a tool called Copy Current View. And on-screen Takeoff had this too, where basically if you wanted to zoom around a space, then you could switch tools, capture this space, send it to a little clipboard, and I'm going to open up Word instead of email, but let's just open up a blank document, right-click, paste. There's my little snapshot. So just that fast, again, I can capture what I'm working on. I just need to jot off a quick RFI to somebody and engage them in conversation. Then I'm not describing at the bottom left-hand corner of such and such page, there's this thing I need you to check out, and I'm not scanning documents to get to that. I just clipped it and I moved on. Snagit can do that too. That's another tool. There are a couple of tools out there that you can download that are screen captures in general, but this one's built inside this program. Would that be helpful to any of you out there? Yes, no, maybe. Yeah,
or like that.
yeah, absolutely. So everything in this program too is built with permissions, so you can control who sees what. The other thing is, when I take a capture like that, in this program, let me zoom out, let's say I really want to communicate with just my door contractor. So I'm going to hide all of the takeoff except for my doors and frames. So I can pull these guys back out. And I'm isolating different items on this same drawing. I don't think you can see them very well, but there we go. But you can work with these items and you can isolate different things on the drawing. So if you have a lot of stuff taken off on one drawing and you don't need to communicate all that to the person you're trying to talk to, then hide the stuff that's not relevant to them and just move on. And it's so fast. It's just so fast, and you can clean it up. You can add a legend to this that adjusts to what you've decided to show also. So it just makes it crystal clear what you're trying to do. Layers, I talked about file sharing. So file sharing basically, you can do that in on-screen takeoff. You can actually send a project to someone else who doesn't have on-screen takeoff. So if a lot of GCs do this all the time, that they receive projects into on-screen takeoff from another on-screen takeoff user, but if an on-screen takeoff user wants to share their entire project of takeoff with somebody who doesn't have the program, they can do that. That person just downloads the program, and it's a free version just from downloading. You don't have an activation code for it, but it gives you minimal takeoff tools, and you can open up a project that's been sent to you, and you can evaluate it. And if that person has put in notes, clouds, links to details they want you to see, it'll all be in there, and they can engage with it. So that's on screen, but in Construct Connect Takeoff, it's the collaboration. It's a collaborative tool that you can give people access to or not. It just makes that communication bit so much easier. Any questions about all the stuff that I have shown so far? Has this been helpful to see those kinds of things? Like I said, my goal number one was to light a fire up to you to think, what is in my program that I am not using? Have I done that to some extent? Yes, no, yes, a little bit, I hope. So, goal number two, how to learn an entire program and influence your industry in 5 minutes a day. So question for you, show of hands, how many of you know someone who's bought a construction software product, any construction software product, and it is gathering dust, the proverbial dust on the shelf? A good number of you. I mean, we see that happen all the time. We got people who come in calling us on the phone, I need help with this thing, we bought it 6 months ago, we decided never to take the training because we were busy, and now I got this bid due at 2 o'clock today. Which we pray for them, and then we try to help as much as we can, because there's not much you can do by 2 o'clock today that's going to get this person set up where they need to be. But that's pretty common, and so what I want to encourage you in, this is my jam, this is what I do every day, is to help estimators adopt this software. We've been over backwards to help people do it, and I promise you can make this happen in 5 minutes a day. I promise you can. So to show you a couple different things you can do. So what will it take? We're at the starting gates of something really great. Very little time, a whole lot of commitment. You just have to decide that this is what you're going to do. Any goal in life is like that. You decide what you're going to do, you come up with a plan, and I'm telling you, pick any software program you want out there. You can learn it in 5 minutes a day. Our software, both of the takeoff solutions I showed you today, we have a whole series of training videos that you can watch. So how can you do it? Self-serving training options. Of course you can schedule live training. Everybody has live training, and we love to have you in our training classes. But if you want to start like 10 minutes after you gave them your credit card, you can do that. Jump onto the training library and start watching videos. Each video, guess how long? About 5 minutes. So if you watched one a day or one a week, Even if that feature is not something you're gonna use today, it will stick with you. And this is the thing, this is what gets people overwhelmed all the time when they come into classes, is there are 5,000 things this program does, I'll never learn it all. You're not gonna remember all of it, no. But what would be great is if you watched 5 minutes a day and you knew of the existence of a tool that did this thing, and you know there's a video out there, and you remember watching it 30 days ago, but you can't remember exactly how it worked, at least you know it's there. And you can go back and watch the video, and now you're 5 times faster than you would have been if you didn't do that. And 5 times better for it because you actually knew that the tool was there, as opposed to not ever knowing it was there in the first place. Does that make sense? So help yourself to the self-serve training options. They are fingertips away. We offer live training, as I said, but you can learn the entire program, all of our programs, end to end, without ever talking to a trainer. If that's how you're wired. Not everybody's wired that way, everybody learns differently. But if you are just like, I got this, I'm gonna do this on my own, we don't hide anything in the training videos. They're not training light. It's everything, it's literally everything. Oops, next slide. So I said 5 minutes a day, you could also do 1 tool a week. We had 2 salespeople, phenomenal people, who decided early on when they were joining our team and not coming from construction, that they were going to each pick 1 tool and teach it to each other once a week. Didn't take very long. They would each watch 1 video and then they would show each other how the tool worked. And over time, they became the top selling salespeople on our team because they knew the program cold. And it's just because they committed to that one little bit. And they had a whiteboard in their shared office and they wrote up what they were going to do each week. It's that little bit of time. And my team, the training team, we've implemented a tool or a process where when we have our weekly meeting, because I told y'all we went from Gmail to Outlook and it's given me heartburn, among many, many other system things. We have to learn all the different stuff that's in there, and Outlook is a super powerful tool from a corporate standpoint, but I'm busy, I'm crazy busy every day, I don't have time to figure out all those different things. So what we do, what my team does, is every Friday afternoon we have our team meetings, we go around the table and we name our favorite tool in Outlook, and we show each other how it works. And so now I just learned 9 new things about my email program that I didn't know was there. And sometimes it's like a game, somebody mentions something and somebody else was like, you took mine, I have to come up with something else. But that's fine, because we're learning something every single week from each other. That's how Excel works, that's how Word works, that's how web browsing works, that's how all that stuff works. A lot of times we just learn it from other people. Like, how'd you do that? What did you just do right there? But if we're intentional about it, you can really get somewhere fast. And the last piece here is get to know your support and training teams. I can only speak for our team, but we are 100% on board with getting on the phone with you, doing screen shares so we can see your program and walk you through your stuff. The way our training system works is very, very systematic. So we have a 2-part training system. The first one is to teach you the fundamentals, which would be my expectation of what Takeoff should look like when I come into this program, so that when you finish that part, that afternoon you could be doing bids. They may not be the fastest bids that you could possibly do in the program, but you're doing bids, and you're doing them in the digital space. The second part of our training is just 2 hours. It's a one-on-one, and it's intended to address the idea of there are 5,000 things this program does, and I don't even know where to start. And so what we do is we consult you. We have you show us the bids that you've been building. We have you tell us about your industry. We have you tell us about your preferred kind of project. And we do the Rolodex of all the tools that we know are in that program, because we know it backwards and forwards, and we use 2 hours to just boil that down to the stuff we know is going to be most powerful for you. So to have that kind of advocate who can save you that time, that's huge. That's just huge. And we've seen people really just take off, no pun intended, after having had that kind of training. Because we do the sorting for you, and we really try to make you power users. And beyond that, you can call us anytime. Got 5 minutes that you need to go over something, got 15, got an hour because you got stuck in a real crazy calculation, it's not working out the way you thought it would, call us and we'll walk you through it. That's not a charge, that's just our service. And our support team does the same thing. Would you guys add anything to that? Particularly those of you who've met?
No.
And actually are strategic about the, yeah. Okay. So the other part of this is how to influence your industry in 5 minutes a day. This is so critical. You guys are sparks that make these programs. Don't think for a minute that you are not, that every decision we make as far as what we're going to build begins with y'all. It does not begin with us. It begins with y'all 100%. So, little time, a lot of commitment. How do you do it? Find people hungry to hear your story. I mean, are you talking to businesses that are not asking you what you do, what you love to do, what was your favorite project, all of that kind of stuff? Because you should be. We have in-house classroom training once a month, and it's my favorite week of the month because all these clients come in and we train them in our classroom and we have lunch with them, and every time I sit down and ask them the same questions. I'm sure my team rolls their eyes when they see me do it because I ask the same questions of everybody. What's your favorite job? What are you struggling with right now? What's happening out there in your region? Is business good? And I get so much cool feedback, and I feel like I get my hands on the pulse of the industry because I'm listening. And I love to hear that. I love to hear the stories. It's fascinating, too. I've had an opportunity to travel around the world training estimators, and I traveled to Australia a couple of years back, and my mentor here, Greg Duica, has built a lot of stuff in Texas. In fact, he worked on the Texas State Capitol. He'll tell you all about that, and how he drives back by stuff he's built still 30 years later, and just kind of parks and looks at it and remembers the little trees that he planted that are huge. And this guy I met out in Australia said the same exact thing. Like, estimators in a lot of ways are cut from the same cloth. You like to build stuff, you want to see the product of your work. It's just an incredible thing. It's an incredible thing. So find somebody who wants to hear that story, who wants to hear that, and then give feedback. We love that. We hunger for that. We want to understand how you're using the product and how you found your way through this path in our program and you got stuck right here and you wished that when I typed in W18 times 36 or what have you for the structural steel, it would just pick that up. That would be so awesome if it did that. And we go tell development. So Mark and I meet with what's called a Think It Squad every single Monday afternoon because they want to hear from us because we're always talking to clients. And we give input to the teams who are actually conceiving of what is going to be built next program. And it's only because you talk to us that we know what we want to say. Let me back up one. So give feedback, talk to people who are wanting to hear your stories. If you've got people who are not wanting to hear your story, move on. That's what I would say. Move on. But also, every program that I have ever seen has some function built into it that allows you to give feedback to development. We have it, Plant Swift had it, QuoteSoft has it, that's our piping and HVAC company. Everybody is trying to grab that information. And so you can have request support and request feature is what it's called in our program. So you can just click on that and go, it would be so great if this particular tool worked like this. And that helps us out too. Remember what I was saying, that developers always are challenged with making tools real obvious so that you're invited and inspired to use them. If you're requesting something that already exists, then they pass that on to my team when my team calls you as the trainers and says, guess what, you already have that, let me show you where it is. And it's a shame that the development or the design was not made such that it was obvious. And then they go work on that and make it more obvious. Does that make sense? And that's the thing. Watch the industry grow because of you. You guys control the industry and the development and the technology that is out there because of your experiences day to day, what you're struggling with, because those struggles change and they evolve. The more tools you use, the more your needs change. And we need to hear from you so that you can drive the industry. So if you don't participate in all that good stuff, you don't participate in learning the program backwards and forwards, and you don't just engage people in conversation and all that good stuff, then we don't get the opportunity to grow the technology. Does that make sense? Has anybody in here ever sat on a committee or a voice of customer group with a development team? Ever taken a survey from a development team? No?
Or beta.
What did you say?
Or beta.
Or a beta team to test out a new product? Do you know how you get on those groups? You just ask. You don't have to be making millions of dollars or a certain amount, or you don't have to have this many employees. You just ask. That's really all it takes. You know, we have people who just are dying to have your time so that they can hear from you. So I would encourage you, whatever programs you're using, go call your rep and say, do y'all have a beta group? You know, do y'all have a voice of a customer sort of group that I can be a part of and I can help give feedback? I want to be a part of that. And then you get to be a part of that. That's how easy it is. And I would totally encourage you. It's very empowering when you feel like you have a voice in what's coming up next. Particularly if you can hear what they're working on and see it ahead of time. Questions? Does anybody have any questions for me about anything that we've talked about?
You can do multiple reports out of the takeoff portion of it. Is it import into other management and or system software?
So,
Specifically would be like we use Fab Suite.
okay,
So I'm pushing very hard for some type of takeoff, but it doesn't make sense to do it digitally and then have to redo it in another system because we use that through the shop and
right, for fabrication and stuff.
yeah.
So my advice to you for that would be to look at something like Construct Connect Takeoff with the live link to Excel. On-screen has an Excel export too, it's just not quite as slick as the Construct Connect Takeoff.
On-screens isn't smart like Construct Connect. It's basically, it'll spit out a report that's basically what you see on your.
Well, there's that, but you can also map quantities to cells, but it takes a lot more time. It's a little bit slower. But I would ask, what was it called,
Fab Suite.
Fab Suite, if they have a template that they
Yeah.
can give you, because if they do, then you can map your live link to the template.
Yeah.
We do have plans to continue building out. We don't have plans to go into project management. That's just not our space. We're in pre-construction. But we are definitely looking at integrations and APIs. Do you want to say anything about that? Because you know a lot
Yeah, I
about
was just
that.
going to, so while there's a zillion different things on the roadmap, I don't mean to use hyperbole, but there's a lot on the roadmap. This year, one of our biggest initiatives is API and more endpoints and more applications that we're going to be able to do that with. However, it also depends completely on the other side too. So that, the water going through the hose has got to, if it doesn't go to anything, it just doesn't go anywhere. It's got to have a connection to go to. So that other
That's
program you're talking about,
Right.
if it doesn't have that open,
Right.
but the industry as a whole, you're going to see a lot more of that this year.
So yeah, that was the next question is, Fab Suite's actually owned by Tekla.
Okay.
Or Trimble.
Okay.
Trimble owns Tekla.
Yeah.
And they're talking about, like being able to import Tekla models.
Okay.
And doing your takeoff for you, model takeoff. Is that something that it has the capabilities of doing now, or?
The programs I showed you
Yes.
today, we don't work with models
Okay.
at this moment.
Okay.
We definitely have developers who have expertise in that space, and they are working on it behind the scenes. But our engagement with estimators thus far has continued to lead us back to BIM models are awesome, and they're cool, and the promise is incredible, but they're still incomplete for what I need to do to build. And so we haven't put our full gas pedal down on that, because we're still building out what we see as a future platform with all of our collective experiences. So we haven't gone in that space yet, but I'm sure it's coming down the line. Would you add anything to that, Mark?
I would say there's interesting that you brought that up too, there's a intermediary step that we're totally not grasping right now. You don't go from 0 to BIM, right? BIM has some ways to go, and you can't take an estimator that's just been using Excel and a few other things and expect them to fully grasp that without a lot of implementation. It's much easier to go from paper to 2D digital, and the enhancements that we're making on the 2D right now are going to move towards that. But there's that intermediate step that a lot of people are in that the industry as a whole is not really addressing as well as I think it should. And Katie and I deal with thousands of subcontractors and general contractors, and so we hear this is not just an opinion. So,
Well, we might just be trying to jump, because, we use SDS, and to draw a crude SDS model is pretty quick. I mean, you can draw a big building in SDS, a crude, no connections or anything, you can do that in a matter of days. And it would be worth it to take those days to do that if you could use it for all your, your gross takeoff, not your fine takeoff. While they're on the SDS model, an estimator is now digging into connection details and, specifics, and then in a matter of, something that might take 2 weeks, a guy working really hard for 2 weeks, now you might crunch that down to a week because somebody, and then the flip side of that is you have your model. If you get the job, you have your model already done, more or less.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta go in there and fine tune it, obviously, but, you have your ABMs and all the bulk up front stuff that you need.
Yeah, that is exactly the kind of thing I would pick up the phone and ask, who can I say this to?
Well, that's what we have Fab Suite coming in.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to come to this specifically, because we have Fab Suite coming in next month.
Good.
And I'm really trying to push. I worked for JEI for a couple of years and did
Yeah.
OST, and it's the only place I've done that.
Yeah.
It's like, why? It's pretty much
Yeah.
digitally, but if you don't have a tool like this to do it, it's hard to do it.
Yes, it is.
Like you can do it on Bluebeam and stuff, but it's pretty difficult.
That's right. Mark and I, we geek out on all the coolest new stuff that people are coming out with, and we ooh and we ah when the development team shows us just renderings of what they're coming up with. Like, we think it would be cool if you could do X, Y, Z, and sometimes we're like, we never hear people talk about that, and we say that. They think it's neat because whatever, they've been doing design and stuff. But we're like, no, people don't ask for that. Or they'll show us something and we're like, oh my gosh, when is that going to be launched?
Right.
And then we bug them about it, and relentlessly. I'm glad to hear that they're coming out to visit you. That's what Mark and I did this week. Went out and did client visits and just asked, how are things going? To hear the story, to hear how are you applying this tool in your space, because not everybody uses these tools exactly the same way. They don't. You guys all run your businesses, even if you're in the same trade, in the same region, you're not going to run your business the same way as the next guy. So it's interesting to us to hear how you use that, and we take that back. We got lists of notes in my phone, which is up there, to take back and deliver to our buddies on the development team. And I would encourage you, write up everything you got that's feedback so that you can deliver it to them, make it real clean and easy.
Yep.
Yep. That's a great question. What other questions? How soon can I start learning my Takeoff program? Don't hesitate. Go into it full force.
Takeoff program, is it the same that integrates with the VHS program?
I'm not aware of that integration. Are you?
AccuBid or VHS or someone, they don't have on-screen takeoff.
There are several programs that will connect with on-screen takeoff specifically. I know Vision and PostSoft is one of them. For electrical, it downloads thousands of electrical items in there. There are others that are partners that I don't know about. QuickBid exports to a variety of different accounting programs that we've partnered with to get their templates, like your template we were talking about. But I'm not aware of that one. Could be, but
PlanSwift also has a lot of separate ones. I think you touched on it earlier. We're learning from all these programs with all that experience. This new platform is looking at that solely. Like, how can we take all of that experience and all of those requests and consolidate them into actually what the industry as a whole is asking for? And that's where you're going to see that on that. So,
other questions? So the moral of the day is every single tool that is in any program that you adopt for takeoff and estimating has been thought through, has been evaluated, has come probably from the mouth of another estimator, and you're going to want to know what it is. You're really going to want to know what it is. So I just encourage you, go in, go for the power user, learn it all, every bit of it, and just little bits every day. It does not have to be a novel of information, just a little tiny bit every day, and you will be an expert within months, really. And you'll be grateful for it. Are we on fire? Especially since lunch is coming. That's all I have for you today. I'll stick around if you guys have any questions, but I think they're probably setting up lunch out there very, very soon, so go grab a plate. Looks to be good. Thank you all for coming.
we're also at the table over there. You can
Yeah.
reach out to us as well. So.
Tracy.